This job is difficult. It's a lot of time away from family. It's a lot of energy and effort. My phone will ring at 7 a.m. My phone will ring at 11 at night, depending on the client, and you have to be there to service them. It is a ton of dedication. It is an emotional roller coaster, and that's just all the behind the scenes stuff that people don't see.
Welcome back to the Full Out Real Estate Agent. I'm your host, Mark Faris. Today, we're speaking with Frank Riga. He is the founder and broker of Riga Realty Group. So they're a REMAX experts brokerage. He oversees two agents. He's got a supporting staff, and he does about 40 to 50 million in sales every single year. So he serves the Vaughan, Caledon, Toronto area, and his average sale price is about $1.5 million. Frank, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you for having me.
Well, Frank, let's go back. Let's hear a little bit about your backstory and what got you into real estate.
Sure. Real estate's something I've always been interested in. In my previous life, I went to school, did construction engineering and management, and I was involved in that industry for a little while. And real estate was always on the back of my mind. So eventually, I decided to start taking the courses with the intention of kind of doing it part time while I stayed in my career. And then it just kind of started to take off, and I ran with it, and in no time at all I was able to segregate from my career and start a whole new chapter in the real estate world.
Wow. So you said that real estate was always something that you were interested in. So what was that? Was that something growing up? Did you read a book? Were you introduced to what was it that kind of set the seed of interest for you?
So a couple things actually. When I was quite young, my dad was a realtor with Remax, and many moons ago. And I remember seeing all the paraphernalia and the big balloon he would bring home, and it was always kind of embedded in my head. And then as I got older, a few of my close friends were in the industry, and it seemed like this appealing industry where and I say this loosely because back then I didn't really understand what it was all about, but it seemed like an industry where it was, you had all this time on your hands and you were your own boss. And I thought, hey, I want to do this too. Needless to say, it's not exactly what I thought it was, but that that's to answer your question. That's why I ended up wanting to become a realtor.
Yeah. So you kind of had it in your blood there. It's interesting. You get through osmosis, you kind of get things start to stick on you a little bit when there's somebody in the family business. They come home, they talk about real estate. But I think that's such an advantage that you would have is that it was just innate in you, so to speak, through the years where somebody else that's not coming, they got to learn it from start to scratch, from start to finish, right? So do you think that having your dad in, was there a lot of advice or counsel that he had given you, or was it just something that we'll just say he was doing his thing and then I kind of started from scratch and kind of learned on my own?
Right. Yeah, I definitely started from scratch. I mean, my dad was in it again. I was just really young and he was out of it by the time I was, even a teenager. So he would give me some points about back in the day when he was in it, but obviously things have changed so much that the entire dynamic and industry is just different from, 1990. So yeah, definitely started from scratch. Got the license, had no idea what to do next. Started knocking on some doors, started handing out some letters, started, really trying to get my network to buy into me and give me an opportunity. And then from there, I slowly started to build and compound.
Hmm. So you had mentioned that you were working another job and then you started and then you got enough business where it got to a point where you could supplement and then you could leave your other job. Would you recommend that for new agents coming on board into the industry, or would it be like burn the ships? Would you do it any different? And what were some of the kind of main things that you did to kind of get that we'll say that income starting so quickly in the industry?
Right. So, as much as I'm firm believer that this industry requires everyone's full-time attention, and I don't believe this job could be done at even a reasonably high level on a part-time basis. But as a new agent, I think that's the way to go. Simply because, as you know, it's not easy to make money. And even if you quit your job today and you manage to get super lucky and make a sale tomorrow, you may not see a paycheck for 3 to 4 months or more. So you definitely have to start, in my opinion, on a part-time basis and build up that bankroll to the point that you can be comfortable for, a reasonable amount of time, and you continue to build that momentum. I mean, if I had to do it all over again, I would likely do it the same way.
Yeah. No, that's great. Now, Frank, you had mentioned that the industry was not what you thought it was.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that? So, if there's maybe somebody that's thinking of getting into selling real estate, and they're like, "What do you mean by that?" Well, can you elaborate on that of when you got into business compared to before you got into business?
I love this question, Mark. I'm actually excited to answer it. So I'm going to elaborate on this. With social media today and with reality TV, the job of a realtor has become so sexy and lavish, and people see these, fancy cars and watches and lunches, and it's just the picture that's been painted. The truth of the matter is, this job is difficult. It can be very rewarding financially, but it's difficult. It's a lot of time away from family. It's a lot of energy and effort. There really are no set hours. My phone will
Mhm.
ring at 7 a.m. My phone will ring at 11 at night, depending on the client, and have to be there to service them. So as much as there's this sort of picture that's been painted out there about what realtors do, or in many people's opinions don't do, it's
Mhm.
actually not that at all. It is a ton of hard work. It is a ton of dedication. It is an emotional roller coaster, and that's just all the behind the scenes stuff that people don't see.
That's so well said. It's one thing hearing that, "Oh, I get a call at 7, I got to answer. I got a call at 11 o'clock, I got to answer it." It's one thing like hearing that. It's like, "Oh, that's no problem." But when you're like 11 o'clock and you're tired, you just had a long day, and you still got to finish up that deal before, expiry at 11:30 or 11:59 p.m. That's different, and it's different than waking up in the morning and you have to do something at 7 a.m. the very next day. It's very different going through that in reality compared to talking about it. And so like that grittiness of consistency, the consistency with that, and continuing to push through where you don't get worn down where you're saying, "I'm going to quit." I think that part of it is until you go through it, we'll just say it's easy to overlook how tough that can be.
I agree. And I have this little analogy that I kind of came up with. It's a little bit of a weird one, but it makes sense. It's like if I tell you how painful it is to break your arm, I can only tell you so much, but until you break your arm, you'll never understand that pain. And to your point, like you may think, it's not a big deal. So what? You answer a phone call here or there, but I'll tell you, I surround myself with a lot of different types of business owners who are close friends of mine, and we'll be out on a walk at 10 p.m. or on a weekend, and they see the phone and they're like, "How do you do this? Like this is crazy." And just to them, it's foreign. To me, it's the norm.
Yeah, no, 100%. And then you add to it, I think this is where it can throw some people over the edge, is you make that phone call 11:30, you spend hours and hours on the deal, you wake up at 7, and then you realize that all the work that you didn't come together, the deal didn't come together, and it was all wasted time.
It
And then
happens.
that happens, and then another one happens, another one happens, and you go through a week where you had like 6 or 7 of those all happen in a week.
Yep.
That's where I think for most people it's like the amount of effort and work that goes into it, and sometimes it doesn't come together. But what's interesting, I found it was such a consistent, we'll say, result is that when I went through those times, and I would go through, and we still go through those times. I mean, let's be real in here. But if you just keep driving forward and you don't give up, what I found was that when those 6 or 7 deals didn't come together that one week, the next week, boom, I had like 10 deals come together. And that's the beauty of real estate, is that unlike commercial, so we have a real estate investment firm. We do like 5 big deals a year. So we buy them, we buy these multifamily large deals in the US, and then we flip them and sell them in 2 to 5 years. But 5 of them a year is what we'll do. The commercial brokers we're working with do large volume, but very little number of transactions compared to residential. Residential, you do 10 sales a year, that's one a month. If you do 20, you do 24, that's two a month. You're getting more reps in and you're getting more ability or more up at bats, so to speak. And so what I love about real estate is those six that fell apart, things can change very quick, but you got to keep pushing through to be able to get the win on the back end of that.
Yeah. And you're so right about that. Honestly, you literally hit the nail on the head because I view it the same. Anytime 3 deals fall apart on me, it's like 3 new clients just fall on my lap. You're so right. And anytime you have a super slow month and you kind of get in your own head and why am I so slow? The next month is like a home run. So it's a
Yeah.
very volatile, industry. And you're
Yeah.
right. You got to keep pushing through.
Roller coaster. Yeah, and a piece of advice before we move on from this, because this is such a important part to help you through the emotional state that comes with this business, is that if a deal doesn't come together, whether you're representing a seller or buyer, the key is to get them back in the saddle as fast as possible. So for a buyer, for example, they go out, they get beat out in a bidding war, or maybe the seller didn't, reduce the price the way that they wanted. You get them out and you start looking at more homes like right away. You don't let time go by and let them feel failed. There, you get them back on the horse. And same with sellers. It's like you encourage them, and that's where, if you can do that and get your clients back in the game as fast as possible, that's what I found actually help. Maybe that same transaction, that same client would actually go through like a few days later, or a week after. But I found that the times that I got them back in the saddle faster, we were able to turn it a lot quicker than, if you just ignore them. A week or two goes by and then all of a sudden they change their mind and they don't want to buy a house. They had a bad experience or whatnot. But getting them back in the saddle is something that really helped me.
Okay. Good to know.
Yeah, yeah. So, okay. So next, I want to talk about routine. So this is something, I mean, you're large, you do a lot of transactions, some upper end sales as well. So there's some markets where they have to do maybe 3 sales to be able to, do, say, one for yours. But so each opportunity you get up at bat is really, really important based on, the sale price. All clients are the same, equally important, but from a value standpoint, there's importance to every opportunity. I'm curious, do you have any habits or routines that you do on a regular basis to make sure you're on your game when those opportunities come through?
I like to think that and I'm going to just be so transparent here. I have a little bit of an atypical routine. I don't think I'm like many. A lot of my colleagues, they're in the office, they're ready to go, and I'm just very different. I like to work from home. My prospecting entails my network. That's where I'm consistent at. I can consistently stay home in the comfort of my home office and just make sure to stay in touch with all of the people that have done business with me, that have referred me, that know me, that trust me. And that's what works for me. I continuously and repeatedly put all of my effort and most of my eggs in that basket. And it pays dividends, via referrals or repeat business, etc.
That's excellent. And so I love that you know your approach and you're doubling down on that. I think that's very powerful, and being good at something. So I'm curious, and for the listeners, how do you stay in touch? And what is kind of the regular cadence? Like, how regular are you staying in touch with your clients? And is it just a straight phone call? I'm checking in. Maybe you could share a little bit about the consistency that you would reach out to a typical, past client or somebody in your network.
Of course. So I wish I could say I don't follow a guideline in terms of how frequently I reach out to every particular client, but they're just always on my mind. If I'm watching a hockey game and I know there's 5 of my clients that are big Leaf fans, I'm sending them a text to talk about the game. If someone's closed on a house and I realize, oh, it's been 6 months, I'm giving them a call or a text. How's everything going? It's been 6 months. Are you enjoying it? So I just find different reasons to reach out to them. I always try to sort of go after ways that I know I can connect with them, things that we share in common. And then it's an excuse for me to pick up the phone and say, hey, did you see that, or did you watch that? And it's a chat. It's a friendly, quick chat that keeps me top of mind. And like, to me, it's not so much just about the business. Yes, part of it is, but a lot of it is I built friendships with these people, and those relationships just have to be maintained.
Yeah, I love that how you're personalizing the conversation, and it's simple enough where you can easily stay on track with that. And that's not. It sounds like there's not like this kind of master plan or a built out follow up system there to keep you on track. It's just your client base, and you're just keeping them always the whole client base constantly top of mind, and you're looking for ways to connect with segments of that group where you can kind of reach out to five at a time and say, hey, listen, the Leafs game, hopefully the Leafs win this round. I mean, please, Lord, yes. For all the non-Leafs fans out there, the Leafs deserve to win more than that. And maybe that by the time this airs, we'll see where they're at. But please, Lord, let them win. They
Yes,
deserve it more than any
please.
team. It's been a while.
Yep.
They the fans need it. I think it's been a while. I'm not sure. Do you remember the last time they won the cup? The
67,
Maple Leafs. That sounds
1967.
about right. I know it was a long time. That we'll go with that number. So, but I love that. I love how you segmented the group, and then you can actually reach out. That's something meaningful, so that you're top of mind. It's simple. It's not. Well, it's easy. It's simple. It's not easy to fall through with, right? Because it's the consistency in being top of mind. I think that's where most agents, they kind of forget about them, and then the clients forget about the agent, and then next thing you know, somebody's moving, and they're not, you as an agent's not top of mind.
Right.
Is there anything else you do, Frank, that helps you with your past client networking? Is there anything you do that helps you generate business that is something that you do with consistency that's helped you be successful?
Well, in terms of like staying in touch as well, birthdays in my CRM, I've got everyone's birthday. So definitely personalized text message, nothing automated. Happy birthday, how are you? At the major holidays, I'll typically send something out to the house. So like Christmas, for example, I sent something to all the past clients in the database. And again, these are just extra touches that help me stay top of mind and show that that I do actually care about them as a person, and it's not always just business, right? And then naturally, I think those actions just lead to hey, my realtor's great. He's a caring guy, and he always stays in touch, and um, boom, referrals.
Yeah, no, that's great. You become the convenient option, right, and
Right.
the trusted option too. With that, uh, I love that, and the birthdays, the important days as well. What CRM are you using right now?
Wise agent.
Wise Agent. Yeah,
Wise
yeah,
agent.
yeah. And the thing that I'll give the listeners out there is that it really doesn't matter what you use as long as you use it. I think that's like the big message here when it comes down to CRM and in regards to reminders. And if you can build some automation into it as well, that's great. But the key is to actually go in and utilize it on an ongoing basis. And I think that's the key that many don't. And I just think for staying on track and I think that's a big win if you do that on a consistent basis over your career. It pays off in spades. Frank, can you share a little bit about customer service? I know that you're really big on customer service and looking after the clients, and you actually care for them. What advice would you have for the listeners? So these are real estate agents, they're serving clients. What advice would you have when it comes down to the customer service side? Is there anything that you do or any advice you would have for the agents to be able to take the customer service to the next level?
I mean, yeah, and I think this is actually an easy one because there's no magic recipe to this one. It's just the amount of little things. For example, answering your phone in a timely manner. You and I have both, I'm sure, phoned agents to do deals at times, and it's either MIA, like they don't call you back, they don't answer the phone. When the clients call, I answer the phone. They get, responses lightning quick. I pride myself on that. My phone stays attached to me. I know we're a dime a dozen, and I know if I don't give them that attention, especially because buying or selling a house is a very emotional process for most
Yeah.
people. And when they
Mhm.
want to talk to you, they want to talk to you.
Yeah.
Whether it's because they have a question or whether it's because you have to calm their nerves, you have to be there. And I think like that's huge. I've kind of gained that reputation where, yeah, call Frank, he's going to answer. He's going to be there to help. And I think that's a big one. And all agents have to understand that if you're going to commit to this career, you're not going to put the phone down for 3, 4 hours and go play around a golf or whatever. Not to say that you shouldn't play around a golf, but you got to be kind of always on the clock, in my opinion, anyways.
Mm, yeah. Well, especially if you're doing a deal and there's deadlines, I know that's a big one. Like I've heard that complaint from a number of agents, and I've seen that myself. Was when you're doing a deal and there's deadlines that are coming up, you have irrevocables with offers, and it's just like I guess they call it ghosting, right? There's like the agent just is like disappeared, and then your client is calling you, and it's like you can't get a hold of the other agent. One thing that has actually helped me with that, when I found an agent that, I'm doing a deal and they just didn't call back for whatever reason, I reached out to them doing a deal and they just ghosted. I would actually page them. I'd send a message through the brokerage and I'd say, hey, Mark Faris, please call me back. If they didn't return that first call, I would actually call back and say, this is my second request and a second request. And you can do that through the office, or you can actually do that through your email and right in the title, subject, second request. And I've never had anybody not get back to me immediately after that second request at the top. No agent wants to be known as the person that's not getting back on an ongoing basis. When that's staring at them in the face, especially if you go through the office, they don't want their broker to know that there's a second request. So, I mean, God forbid they didn't get back to you on the second, then you just do third request, and you keep keep
Keep
going,
going.
until. But that I found that to be really effective, and I think what it really came down to with agents not replying, I don't know that they intentionally don't call you back. Like I have faith in real estate agents overall. I don't think that it was like, I'm not going to call that a-hole back. I don't think that's what's happening in their mind. I just think that the transaction is not that important and other things are more important and they're just not thinking about it. And so why that's so powerful, that subject line I found, and that the way that the cadence in regards to reaching out is that it creates more importance and it flags it as, oh geez, that this is now more important than anything else that they're doing in the moment. And I think when people can, and agents, because I see a lot, and I've been in this camp, I got like extremely frustrated, and I've had my fair share of battles going back and forth with agents and yelling and back and forth. And the couple times I did it, I got off the phone. I'm like, I don't feel good. I know they don't feel good about me. And it's like now my reputation. But by actually taking that sting out and realizing that they're not intentionally not calling me back, that actually helped the conversation when they got back on the phone, that I'm not like pissed off with them. And so if you take those two items, the second request in the subject line, whether email or page, that's the first one. And then the second, perspective that they're probably not intentionally not calling back. Other things are more important. I found that took a lot of the sting. And when they jumped on the phone, I was in a better headspace to be able to have a conversation and to put a deal together.
Hey,
Yeah. So I kind of went on a little bit of a tangent there with the response, but yes, when you are doing a deal, communication, I think it's a foundational part of the service. And you're right that the reality is if you just do the basics really well, you stand above and beyond most of the agents out there, right? So there's genius in what you're talking about there and doing it well.
thank you, Mark.
So, okay, how about marketing? So, a lot of is there anything or any advice that you'd give when it comes down to the marketing side of it? I know you do a lot with your network and your past clients. Is there any sort of marketing advice you have for the listeners?
Um, so I personally don't do a whole whack of marketing. Really, Instagram. Yeah, Instagram, a little bit of TikTok, but I've done some flyers in my farm area. Truth be told, I've probably landed a couple deals from them. I'm not going to say they don't work, but again, I once when I did coaching, something was explained to me that resonated. It said, if you're a fisherman, the more lines you have in the water, the more opportunity to catch the fish, right? So I try to focus on the very few things that seem to deliver results. And in my personal instance, it's more my network and Instagram. Instagram does well for me. Just a lot of people that I know and have grown up with are on there, and it has led to business. I don't put as much of an effort on like signs and postcards and mailers and door knocking. I don't do that personally.
Yeah. No, and I think it's wise that you pick a few that works for you and go deep in those few. I think that's where you have agents that are, they pick 10 different channels and they're going, we'll say, very shallow on each of them. I like your approach. I think that's the wise approach to go deep on fewer. When it comes to, say, Instagram, for example, for the listeners out there, if they start a channel and they just start posting, is there anything that you do to help generate more business on Instagram? Or is it just like posting on a regular basis and then people see you and then reach out? Or are you direct messaging them? Or what's your approach to be able to generate more business from a platform like Instagram?
Yeah, so typically with Instagram, I'm really just posting my just listed and my solds. I do
Mm.
mix some sort of personal posts in there or things that I find funny or amusing, or in this particular case, some Maple Leaf stuff because it's playoffs, because it just kind of gives people a sense of who you are as a person. You're not just like a sales machine sort of thing. But yeah, and then, of course, again, like any DMs that do come in, any questions that people ask about a listing, I'm quick to respond because I believe it ties back to the customer service. Like if they realize, wow, look how quickly he responds to just an Instagram message, maybe when they're looking to buy or sell, they might say, we want that level of service when we're ready to buy, right? So,
Yeah, no, that's great advice. Great advice there. Again, do the fundamentals, do the foundational work very well, and you will stand out. And I think you have a standard, Frank, that you've been able to upkeep, and that's one thing. To be able to do it once is one thing, but to be able to do it on an ongoing basis, even when you don't feel like it, I think that's like the magic sauce there. That I'm curious, what is your big driver, your big motivator that keeps that top of mind? Like, what drives you to be answering the calls so quickly on an ongoing basis and to deliver great service for your clients?
yeah, that's a good question. I think truthfully, the answer is it's just my character. I have this I don't even know if it's right to call it this, but like this OCD about responding to people and being on top of everything, and with the business, of course. And yeah, it's just like every day, like let's go. I'm ready for the calls, I'm ready for the text, like let's do this. And the other part to that is, if you haven't noticed, I'm a bit of a hyper. I don't, I like to be busy. I'm not. I'm loud. I like to talk. I'm social. I'm not the guy that's going to sit around and do nothing. It doesn't go very well. So I welcome the calls. I welcome the text, the emails. It gives me something to do, and it kind of stimulates me, right?
Yeah, no, right on. Well, when it comes down to investing, so changing gears a little bit now. So let's just say an investor comes to you. You have one of your entrepreneur business owners there, one of your contacts that you have in your networking group. You're walking along, and they say, "Hey, listen, Frank, I want to invest in real estate." What advice are you giving your buyers out there now when it comes down to investing in real estate in this market?
So to be perfectly frank with you, over the last couple or few years, if you will, like I've been telling them not to do it. Um, I know a lot of people may not agree with that position. That's my position. It's what I believe in, and I always advise people as if it were my money. And when I do the math, there haven't been many opportunities out there, at least here in GTA, that make sense, where you're going to cash flow or even kick in a nominal amount of money every month, which I'm okay with. It's just when you do the math on these things based on the way the prices have been, the rates have been, and the rents, in my opinion, to be out of pocket, a certain amount of money per month doesn't make sense. And that's the advice I give them. On
Mm.
the flip side, has it been a fantastic time to buy certain products, for example, condos? It has. I mean, like, this is the time to buy a condo, but you got to hope that we all hope that things will go up and maybe those numbers will look more attractive a year down the line.
Yeah. No, it's been tough. I mean, for real estate investors and, through the years, Frank, you probably remember like you drive up to Barrie and you be able to buy cash flowing property. So if you're listening to this and you're like, what does cash flow mean? It means you're making more money in rental income than all of your expenses, including your mortgage. So you have a little bit of money left over in your pocket. And, I remember you used to be able to buy a townhome and you could cash flow and put a couple $100 a month in your pocket and you pay off everything. You got a couple of $100 left, and they were great investments. And then, yeah, COVID hit, and pricing went up, interest rates doubled, and just the numbers just didn't pencil out. And the condo market, they just overbuilt that, and you're just hoping that it's going to go up in value. So it has been tough. And it's interesting, when the market shifted, you realize how smart that Robert Kiyosaki in his book, he always talks about cash flow is king, right? Buy for cash flow, buy for cash flow. And it's like, when you're feeding a deal, as in it's not cash flowing anymore. So your income that you're making from rent is not covering all of your expenses. It starts to hurt if your mortgage payment goes up, your interest rates go up, and you realize, okay, maybe I was feeding at $200 and then $500 and $1,000. And then, it keeps going up, and you realize this is an elephant. This isn't putting money in my pocket. And then the values drop too as well. And so it has been tough the last few years for sure. I remember you could come to Barrie, and then we were sending, helping investors go to Aurelia and Midland. And then it was, we keep going north, right? Thunder Bay was the next, Sudbury is the next one as well, right? So that's actually what forced me then to actually go down and start looking at other markets. And that's where, like, Atlanta and Tampa and Charleston, these southeast markets there, you could actually buy properties down there that cash flow. And so it's interesting that the shift in the market. I'm curious, do you think we'll ever get back to that in, say, the Ontario market? Do you ever think we'll get back into cash flowing properties where the rents will look after the expenses?
I don't even know. The
That's
truth
a
is,
tough question.
it's a tough.
The
I
future.
just don't
Yeah.
know. I mean, there's been so many different arguments that prices will never get back to that. But then there's the argument that we have such a shortage of houses relative to the people that keep coming in, and eventually when the dust settles and things start to normalize again, we may see those types of numbers. Like, I just don't know which way things are going to go.
Yeah. No, that's good. Frank, what would you say for a new agent coming in? What is the best piece of advice that you would give a new agent? They're fresh. They come to you and say, Frank, I'm an open book. Just tell me what I need to do, and I'm going to go and do it. I'm going to be successful. What silver bullet advice would you give them?
I think the best piece of advice I could give them is treat this business, because that's what it is. You're a business person now, almost like you're building a house. If you don't have a solid foundation, none of the rest of the house is going to stand. Take it slow, get yourself a CRM, start putting every single human being that you know in there. That's your Bible, and build from it. Build from it. Work on the people. I see a lot of agents, and they get in and right away they're doing like flyers and they're doing this and all these very expensive things, but you got to start, with the people that know you, that will give you an opportunity. And when you do get that sting, hammer it, put it out there, let people know you're in the business. And, I would tell them to repeatedly do that. And then it just automatically starts to snowball, but you got to focus on like the basics, forget about what all the other bigger agents are doing. You have to start and build a solid foundation.
Mm, yeah, that is a great advice because, when you start, you have a certain amount of oxygen left in the bank account, so to speak. So funds, right? And the time is ticking. The clock starts to tick as soon as you get your license. So that's why you had said, I think it's actually a good idea. You're working full time, and then you're putting in, and you're putting in, you're starting the business, so you have some income coming in. But as soon as you make the switch, the time you don't have any more income coming, and so it's like the clock is running, and if you don't get deals on the board and income coming in, you die as a business owner without cash, without oxygen, right?
Right.
And so that's where, if you're spending up front, that depletes your oxygen faster. So this is where I totally agree that doing the non-expensive lead generating activities when you start is wise counsel, because it does more than save money for you. It actually helps you build the muscle and the fortitude to get out and speak to people. And I think that a lot of, we'll say not everyone, but many are out there, they want to skip the step of going through the hard at the beginning, having those conversations at the beginning there as well. And you're a perfect example of it. It's not like you're working with networking people that you know. So it's like, but you do that really well. But you had to get out of your comfort zone at the beginning and have those conversations on an ongoing basis as well, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Definitely.
All right. Well, listen, we have 3 questions here for you. We got a rapid fire part of the conversation, then we're going to wrap this up. You ready for it?
I'm ready.
All right. So I'm a big reader, Frank, and I'm curious, what is the book that's made the biggest impact in your career that you've read?
Rich Dad Poor Dad.
What about that book
That
did
book
appeal to
just
you?
that book spoke to me in so many ways. That book pushed me to purchase my first investment property. That book pushed me to start doing my real estate license. It just something about that book, just, you have a decision to make. You can either sit where you are basically and be comfortable and do nothing, or you can just push. You can push that envelope, you can push yourself. I love that book. That honestly was like TSN turning point for me.
Frank, you know what? If it's interesting, if you're a real estate investor out there, the answer to that question is like 75% of them come back about that I've seen and said Rich Dad Poor Dad's their favorite book. So if you're thinking about investing in real estate, that is a great book that most investors refer back to as a game-changing book for them. So I think that's a really good piece of guidance there to pick that book up and read it. And I even think that's great, even if you don't want to invest in real estate and you just want to become a better real estate agent. We're selling real estate, and Rich Dad Poor Dad talks a lot about buying assets, something that puts money in your pocket, and liabilities, something that takes money out. But you read the book, and cash flow quadrant's another good addition to that. But really, really good. Have you ever played the cash flow game that he created, Rich Dad
No.
Poor or Robert? It's a good one. You can play with your kids, and it's called Cash Flow. And if you go on and Google it, it's a good family game. And it actually teaches you to get out of the rat race when your income exceeds your expenses from the assets that you're actually buying. And I know you have you have some kids there that you might want to teach. But for the listeners out there, that's just a great one. That if you want to learn more about investing and getting out of the rat race of always having to work because you have to put food on the table versus wanting to because you have your assets paying your lifestyle. I just found that was super valuable. All right, so I went totally on a tangent on that book question, but we got to still make this rapid fire here, or else we won't get through because I'll go on another tangent here. But second question for you is, what are 3 words that people that know you best would best describe you as?
I'd say honest, trustworthy, and loyal.
Perfect. Yeah, no, great for a real estate agent for sure. And then to wrap everything up here, what final advice would you have for a real estate agent that wants to take their business to the next level?
Just take it to the next level. I mean, you have to be patient. It takes time, right? It takes time. It takes time to build the contacts. It takes time to build your name, to gain the trust. And you know, there's been many times in my career, and this goes to touch on, Mark, what you said earlier. Like, there's been many times in my career where you kind of just want to throw in the towel. You know, you're like, I've had enough of this. It's exhausting, it's stressful, but don't keep at it. It really is a great industry. It's a great career, and you got to stick through, have thick skin, and eventually it'll always, do well for you.
Yeah, great advice. Well, this is a real pleasure speaking with you, Frank. And, if real estate agents that are listening out there, if they want to refer a buyer or seller to you, what's the best way they can reach out and connect with you, Frank?
They can reach out just via phone, 647 or Instagram, Frank Riga _ Remax Rep. You'll always catch me there.
Awesome. Well, Frank, thanks for coming on the show. It was a real pleasure.
Likewise, Mark, the pleasure was mine. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thanks for listening, everyone. If you like the show, please share and subscribe to the channel where we're building a community of full-out real estate agents. And if you're ready to start building long-term wealth, I wanted to invite you to partner with me on our next apartment acquisition in a top U.S. market. Visit fulloutinvesting.com and let's grow together. I love you guys and keep going full out.